Hey, what's up, everybody? Thanks for coming again for another day. We're on day 3 here with the trading bot that we're going to build live on stream, Trade Me Up. So yesterday went pretty well. We got through creating the config manager and loading a config. So now we can actually have some settings outside of the application, outside of the source code, and we can plug in our keys without any worry of checking that into the cloud. So that's pretty cool. The other thing we started on was the runtime, early runtime, and we created a run manager and started creating the objects that we need to connect to the Alpaca API. That's where we're going to continue today. And starting off here, I already was looking at this before we started here, and I was seeing that some of these objects we may want to access throughout the runtime. So I'll probably end up marking these as internal instead of private. That way we can access them from other areas. Specifically, I was thinking about the connection handling for the streaming clients and how I wanted that to happen. I really think I do want to use the scheduler for that. I want to just basically have a simple job that runs every minute, checks whether the market is open using the Alpaca API clock. So there's a clock object that you can request from Alpaca, and it'll return the current day market hours, and it'll basically tell you if the market is open or not. So I think I want to do that and just check every minute. And if the market's open, then we'll try to connect to our streaming clients. And if it's not, we'll just disconnect and wait till the next day. Um, so I'll go ahead and rename these so that they come up with title case, so it looks appropriate since it is internal and not just private. All right, and we'll do the polygon as well. All right, so now those are internal. These are fine staying private or public like this. That should be fine. App settings, I think that's fine staying private. And can we do partial here? Class struct interface or void. Yeah, we can. So I wanted to break this out and make it partial as well in case we wanted to move these functions. And I think I do. I want to move these out into a different class. I don't want to muddy up this main class here with a bunch of connection handlers because they're basically going to be some methods that are one-liners and they're private. So we'll go ahead and break that out into another file now. Probably just add a folder. And let's see, connection handlers. How about just connection? Yeah, that's fine. No, this has to be run manager. Right, it has to match the original class so it can still exist as partial. And we're going to copy and paste some of those connection ones in here. So we got a minute aggregate. I'm going to leave that one for now. Socket closed open, connected. So we want all these. And we're going to plug them into here. And we're going to take these ones as well for the Alpaca streaming client. Trade update, we're going to keep separate. Account update separate. So we'll take this one. Just missing a type. And just to recap here, if you haven't joined before, I am uploading all this code to the cloud. So it's going to be on GitHub. Links are in the description now. You can clone it anytime, follow along. Looking to build out a community as much as I can and hopefully get some feedback on what I'm doing here so I can improve my programming skills and my knowledge on this stuff as well. I'm new to trading, haven't been doing it too much. I do it manually, trying to create a bot to do it for me as well. All right, and we'll take these. We'll leave those for now. Not sure where I want to put those, probably in a different one. All right, let's throw those here. And let's kind of reorder. So put these at the top. Closed. So open, closed, and opened, connected, closed, connected, closed, and same for these. Open, connected. Just ordering them in the order of operation that they should occur, right? So you open a socket, you then get connected, and then you should have it closed if you're disconnected or you disconnect manually. Yeah, I like that. And these no longer exist in current context. Public, static, partial class, run manager. So those namespace is incorrect. Yeah. Have to exist in the same namespace for it to be the same class. Those corrected themselves. So opened, connected, closed, open. Just reordering here. Connected, closed, and we'll put these at the bottom. Because you can't receive updates unless you're connected. Okay, I like that for now. So like I said, I was going to be doing a scheduler today. I use a third-party library for that. It's Quartz. So I'm just going to add that now. See if we can find it. I've used it in the past, and it does cron-style job execution with a scheduler. It works pretty well. I'm happy with it. RTZ. Oh, that's an update, so we want to browse. So let's see, quartz.net. Is that it? Let me go to their website. Just checking out here if this is the correct library. Don't recognize it. They got a new icon, it seems like. Yeah, it looks like they have just a new icon on their new version. Very cool. Wonder what kind of changes they added to it. All right. They have a whole new website too. That's great. All right. Glad that's still getting updated. It's a really good library to use. So I'm just going to add it to all my projects. Probably don't need it in all of them, but right now I don't think that matters. I'll just wait for that to keep going. Oh, here we go. Yep. I do accept. Looks like they have some plugins as well. Those probably get installed. And just waiting for that to update. There we go. Looks like it's going now. What's that? Oh, that's okay. Okay, it looks like we got it. We added that to all of our projects. All right. So the first thing I want to try to do, I think, is set up a streaming connection for these. So we'll start with the scheduler. I think we'll need an initialize function here. Method, rather. Don't think it needs to return anything. And doesn't need to, oops. Doesn't need to have any parameters. Let's see here. So how does let me reference the Quartz documentation. How do we initialize that? All right, so we have a scheduler. That's an iScheduler. And we schedule jobs. And how do we initialize that? So you just start it. Okay. Surprised we don't have to create that object. Where is it defined? Let me see. Okay, so there is a factory that they use, and it just gets a default scheduler with a function. Okay, so we can probably put that right here in initialize, I would say. So let's create an object for our scheduler. Probably internal as well. These should be these can be properties for all these and not fields. Same with the scheduler. Since they're internal, we're only going to be modifying it in our library anyways. Maybe we only want to set these inside of the run manager. Yeah, let's try that. And this one, since we're going to have the scheduler in a different class potentially, maybe we just make it all part of the same partial class. Yeah, let's just all make it part of the same thing. No reason to have it separate. So I'll create a new folder here, scheduler. Add. So we can initialize that here, scheduler equals so I have a factory for this. Get scheduler. that should get us a scheduler, private. This needs async because there's an async here. Let's see. I wonder if we can do it this way as well. Probably. Not sure which one I like better. I like the await. It's fine with me. But then we have to await the initialize, so let's do it this way. So we can call initialize when we start. Okay, so we are going to get our scheduler. Then what do we want to do from there? I'm guessing we want to start the scheduler. We can do a helper function here. Now let's just create a folder called helpers. These are basically just going to separate some of the code. So we can actually call this one jobs, potentially. We'll put our jobs in there that we're going to run on the scheduler. We're going to add a class here, call it scheduler helper. And this is going to be just adding this. So again, we don't fill up our run manager with a ton of code. Want to keep this pretty spread out, modular, so we can keep it organized and not get confused on what we're doing here. I like to kind of keep pieces of the code separate, so it's very specific onto what that code is doing, I guess. So we'll just create a private static async task. Could be void. Let's see. Don't think this needs to return anything. We can do void. Let's do task. We're using await in the other method, so we'll just use await throughout the project. Right? So we're going to start that. Now we need to add our first job, which would be, what do we want to call that? So this first job that we want to add is the one that is going to run every minute. It's going to update the clock. It will check to see if the market is open, and then start managing our connections. And as well as managing the connections, it will also subscribe to minute data, right? Or do we want that separate? No, if we connect to the streaming client for data, we should also subscribe at the same time. So later we'll be maintaining a list of symbols or stock tickers that we want to subscribe to minute data for. So the job should be called connection handler job, connection manager job. Yeah, let's do that. Connection manager job. We can always change that. I do like that. It's a connection manager. It will be managing the connection. You can also just call it a minute job. And we can do a bunch of stuff on the minute job. Or do we want to keep those jobs pretty unique? Let's keep it specific to the what it's actually going to be doing and separate them out that way. So public. Do we want this in the runtime? No, this. Yeah, we can throw these jobs in the same, right? In the same namespace as well. Let's see. No, it has to be a class. Jobs are classes. So they initiate a type of class with the job. So we need to expose, yeah, we will need to expose our, yeah, I think that should be fine though. So, okay, so we'll just keep it that and inherit iJob. Yeah, that's how they want to do it. And then they got an execute. Should this be async? No, they just put execute. I will need async though, because I'm going to be using awaits in here. Okay. So now we have a connection manager job, and we'll just initialize that first, and then we'll put the body for the job. Okay, so we're going to do await, scheduler, schedule job, and then they have a job builder to create the type with identity and then build it. So they have job builder create on a type. Okay, so it initializes the class like that. So I'm going to do some helper functions here. Private, static, iJob, detail. We're going to give it right. So now we can create job. And then what does it want? It wants a trigger next. And a trigger is they have a trigger builder, creates it, and we want to do on cron expression. So we'll do another one here. Private static trigger. Get trigger based off of a string cron expression. And we're going to return trigger builder create with cron schedule. We have all sorts of different types here, but we are going to do cron schedules. I like the format. It's relatively easy to understand. And then we'll build that. And this is going to just be the cron expression. So this is going to allow us to use this helper here and specify our cron expression right here. So now we want this every minute, Monday through Friday. I mean, we can just do it every minute, right? Let's just keep it running. That will just be one request to alpaca every minute. So we have to kind of monitor how many requests we're doing per minute. Like I said earlier, they do have a request limiter of 200 requests per minute. And eventually, I'd like to have a request handler. I haven't thought about the implementation for that yet, so we're going to wait on that. Hope I don't regret waiting on it, just because it might be a lot to rip out and switch in. But hopefully it's not. And yeah, we'll be able to limit the requests on our end, because I think once they get to 200, they kind of just start dropping or returning errors. And yeah, I want to be able to handle those internally. Okay, and I'm just going to look up here a cron expression for every minute. Okay, and let's see, we want it every 0 minute or 0 seconds, right? So on the 00 every 1 minute, starting at 00, every hour, every day, every month, every year. So that looks like this. So just every 1 minute. No, every 1 minute. Every second, every minute, starting at 00, every hour, forever. Okay. So let's see here. Pull that out of the way. And just easier to understand. And so every minute, forever. That sounds about right. Okay, so let's add, we don't have our logger initialized, so let's start adding those. Little debug and verbose messages in there so we can see that everything's working. So let's define our logger, so internal static logger, log factory, right? Yep. Logger static and we'll initialize that here. Oh, it has to be new. We're going to do add console, add file, and then if all right, so what that's going to do is just say if we're, let's add these. If we're in debug, it's going to always set it to minimum debug. Otherwise, on published or released applications or builds, we will only do information. So we don't want to see the debug information on release builds, right? Only on debug builds. Okay. And we can even set that to verbose if we wanted to at one point, but we'll stick with debug for now. Okay, so we initialized our logger. Let's do logger.log debug. Let's just get some starting manager. Start walking through our code here. And then we'll do initializing here. Initializing. And then we want to, we want to await. Oh, we did this here, huh? We are async anyways, so let's do this. Yeah. Let's do an await here. Get scheduler. Waitable. Why do I have this wrong? Oh, it's not going to do it. Oh, I need to add async. No wonder. Task. Don't need this. That's what I was trying to do. Okay, and then await, start, scheduler, right? That's going to jump us over to here and actually start creating our jobs. We start the scheduler, schedule this job, then it should trigger our job every minute. And this is where we want to start checking if we're connected or not. So we want to have some properties here in the run manager. Let's close some of these. We're not using them just yet. Okay. So we didn't need to know if we're connected to these. I do volatile as well. So these are going to be accessed by multiple locations, I think, at potentially multiple times. So maybe I want it volatile just to make sure it's going to be set correctly when we access it. Let's try that. So let's do alpaca streaming client connected, right? That's internal, so that's fine. Not valid. Is connected. Not valid for this item. It's probably because it's static. We'll see if we have to do something with that later. So that's if we're connected. Okay. And we will set that in the connection handlers. So we will set this one here. Alpaca streaming client is connected here equals false. Is that a difference? Might be a different version of C# that I'm thinking you can initialize properties like that, or set a default value rather. It's possible as well that you can't do that in static classes. Okay. I'm not even sure it actually has to be static, but we can change that as well later if we need to. Alright, so that's fine. I think that should work. We'll do the same thing for polygon connected. True, right? True. Unconnected. We're going to do logger, log information. We can add more to that later if we need to. We just want to output the object. Sure, let's do it like that. Very basic. Not sure what else we need here. Oh, there should be an on error as well for these, I believe. So I think we forgot those. Connected, socket closed. Let's do an on error. Yeah, we did miss that. All right, we'll pull that out. And that's going to be a part of here. Just start at the bottom. So by putting a $sign in front of your quoted string, it's called string interpolation. So it allows you to basically do string.format like this. So this is the old way of doing it, right? And then you can provide over here object. So effectively, this statement here is the same as this one. This is just automatic. It's a little bit cleaner this way because you can see exactly where your objects are going in the output string instead of just looking at the position that you provided. So we got the error there, and we'll need to do the same thing for polygon as well. And after socket close, on error, yeah, forgot that one as well. Move that in here. We'll just log the error as well. Okay. Let's add these in here, just so we know where that's coming from. So that one's connected. We mark it as true. Mark it as true. Okay, so we're waiting on logging to happen. We'll do that first. And we'll mark these as warnings. And this is information. Okay. So we're just going to say the socket was opened, right? And we will say warning here. Socket was closed. So, yep. And then also closed here. We're going to log a warning. And opened. We are just going to log information here. All right. So now we should have all of these implemented. We do, which is great. And this is just going to be setting that we're connected true when we actually connect. And then when we disconnect, so when the socket's closed, we want to set is connected, oops, wrong one, to false. So that's a bad thing, right? So when the socket is closed, that means we're no longer connected. Okay. So let's take a look here. Yeah, I'm liking the way that looks so far. Let's flip back over to our job. So when we execute every minute, we want to update the clock. So let's add an object here for the clock, just to hold that internally, and we can reference it everywhere in the runtime. And let's start adding it. These are public. Let's start adding it here. Internal. Clock. Is that the right thing? Yeah. Clock. Okay. So let's every minute immediately update the clock. And that's the alpaca trading client. And it's going to be, connection, runtime. It's called run manager. There we go. Get clock async. How's that going to look? And this is probably run manager as well, right? Because we're inside the class connection manager. Right, so from our minute job, we now update the clock. If clock dot equals dot is open, right? So if we're open, if we're open, we want to check to see if we're connected. Because if we're not connected, we should connect. So if not is, sorry, alpaca streaming clients, and this would be run manager. Oops. Alpaca, there it is. So if this is not connected, we will do something. Let's just add some comments here. Market should be open, and we need to ensure we are connected, and we need to make sure we are connected and subscribed, right? So polygon is connected. This is where we connect to the polygon, right? And then we also want to, during the connection, subscribe to the minute aggregate. Just adding some notes here so I kind of know what I'm thinking through here. We are running up on our 1 hour time limit, but try to get as much done here as I can. I think we've got quite a bit done today, actually. Pleased with our progress. We have an idea for our scheduler and how we want to manage these connections. So we can do connect to async, right? So that's going to connect, and we'll wrap that. If we're not connected, then connect. And then subscribe. What if we were previously connected and then disconnect? So we should mark subscribed when we subscribe. So if not Polygon streaming client connected, subscribe. If we're already subscribed, let's unsubscribe, right? And then right? So we're going to unsubscribe and then resubscribe here. So let's add this to internal static bool, and then we'll just manage that there as well, right? That'll just inform us that we're subscribed. Oh, we need these symbols. So we'll just do, right, this is where we actually need to have the symbols loaded as well. Kind of wait a void. Okay, so it doesn't need that. And then run manager here. And then also streaming client. We can create a function in the run manager that says connect and then disconnect at the end of the day. I think that should do it as well. Oops. So these symbols are hard-coded now. Definitely don't want to keep it this way. I need to revisit that tomorrow and start loading up a strategy potentially. Okay. Okay, we'll just connect here to the streaming clients. This will allow us just to resubscribe, I think, on a disconnect. Let's do that. Alpaca streaming client. Connect. Right. And then we should set the connected to true. Yeah. Once we're actually connected in our connection handler here, right? We should only be connected once we're actually connected. I think that'll work. I actually want to pull this out potentially though into a internal and it might be a helper, connection helpers. Public static partial class, and this is going to be run manager, right? I'm going to do internal static async task connect. Don't need these, right? Namespace. Why can't it see these? Internal static async task connect. Public static partial class run manager. Should be in the runtime library. Or namespace. Let's see here. Not sure why it's giving that error. That doesn't matter. It doesn't exist. So what did I do wrong here? So I put that in the connection helper run manager. There we go. And now we have a connect that we can replace in our job here. So wait connect and run manager. Right, kind of slims it up a little bit. That way we just, in our job, know what we're doing. And we will have a disconnect as well in here. Internal static async task. Just want to finish this one up. And it's kind of be like the same thing. So if we are connected, right? Disconnect async. If the Polygon client is disconnect, right? And if we're subscribed, we want to unsubscribe and set it to subscribe to false, right? And we don't need anything there. unsubscribe. CRIBE. Yep. I like it. Then we'll go back here, and if we're open, else. Okay. So this is going to update our clock every minute, and if we're open, then we'll act on it. Market should be closed. We need to ensure we are disconnected and unsubscribed. I mean, that seems pretty simple. So it's going to start up. If it's open, then it's going to try to connect. If we're not, then it's just going to disconnect. And those should be, so if, and it will only try to disconnect if it's connected, right? So we shouldn't get any exceptions. May have to wrap this later in these connect or disconnected, because they do throw an exception if we are not determining the right state. I'm hoping we don't miss the state by setting these, but like I said, we are also modifying the is connected in some some event handlers here. So I don't know if they would ever step on each other, right? So if this gets socket closed and we set it to false, but at the same time it's writing or checking the value here, we may interpret the wrong state. So I may want to either make those volatile or potentially put a lock object while we're modifying. So maybe like a thread safe type object. And I'm actually thinking I'm going to need that. So I'm going to write that down for the notes tomorrow. So I don't forget. Let me put it in the actual run manager. So let's do a comment here. To do should be potentially thread safe objects. Implement a lock for these. Yeah, object locked. Okay, so I think I'm gonna wrap it up here. Thanks for joining again. Please do subscribe if you want to watch more streams of mine. I think you will get notified if you have your notifications turned on. Also join in. I'd like some feedback on what I'm doing here and looking for some help getting through it. This is a fun project for me. It's a great learning experience. I am posting all this code on GitHub, so you guys are free to follow along and download the code and use it yourself. And I appreciate you watching the stream, and I will be heading out. Take care and have a good day.